Hi, I'm Jamie, and I'm going back to review and reflect on the first 2 weeks of the Unit 8 Macbeth project. Um, so, yeah. So, during the first 2 weeks, we focused on actually auditioning for the project. So, we had an audition piece that we had to learn, we got to choose our audition piece, and then we did our audition. And then we started looking at Macbeth concepts. We got our roles eventually during these 2 weeks, and then we got our script, and then was able to annotate them so then we could start blocking scenes. So for my audition, I did the Lady Macbeth Out Damned Spot monologue. I found the monologue really easy to learn. And to help me with learning it, I got myself into groups with my peers in my class, and we kind of just went through it together, each taking turns to perform in front of each other with other people, giving us line prompts, so then we wouldn't forget. It was just easier to learn our lines that way, and it was nice to have feedback from the people that I was performing it to, just in small groups. I think that really helped, and it was just really nice to have to be able to get that feedback, so I can go back and improve. We had about a week to learn and perfect that audition, because my lecturer Steve, he wanted us to be off script for the actual audition, so we weren't just facing a script. We needed to act. When we had that week to rehearse, we actually started looking at concepts for Macbeth. Basically, the concept is the overall idea. So instead of just rehearsing and performing Shakespeare's Macbeth, we wanted to put a twist on it. So we were put into groups, and my group ended up looking at this maritime concept. The biggest change to the script for that concept would be that the witches are actually sirens, and it's a whole folklore, maritime, seaside kind of town setting. So the whole story would go that the sirens being the witches being the sirens, their voices would kind of coerce Macbeth into doing these acts, and killing Duncan and killing Banquo and doing all of these things to become king. And so this concept tied in really nicely with the prophecies that the witches make in the original Shakespeare script. And it's really nice because the sirens really highlight the control that the witches have, how it, leads to Macbeth's downfall. With the production and technical side of it, it would be sea shanties for the music, and having sets with broken boats and stuff like that, and as the show would go on, the set and the boats and stuff like that would become more broken over time, just to really show the downfall of not just Macbeth, but how it's shaping the society, how Macbeth and how his downfall is affecting everybody, and overall how the witches have influenced that. So other groups had other ideas, and so my lecturer Steve went off to make his decisions, while we continued to learn our auditions. Going back, we actually performed our auditions, and personally I think I did a quite good job. I was extremely nervous, but then again, so was everybody else, so it kind of made me feel a little bit better. We were all at the same level, and so it was really nice to kind of have that bond, and it was really it felt good to kind of be in the same situation and not have any stress with competing with each other, because I mean, we were all in the same boat, we were all nervous, we all had things that we thought were going to go wrong, and it actually ended up going really, really well. One thing that I wish I did do was really take the time to look deeper into the character Lady Macbeth, to try and really put myself in her shoes in this moment. I think I was more focused on knowing the lines because I was worried that I would forget them, that I kind of didn't take the time to put that research in, and so next time I would like to do something like that, just to kind of widen my understanding of the characters. So after the audition, Steve actually came back to us and we finally got our roles. So I wasn't like really going for Lady Macbeth. I was one of those people that I kind of just, I was going to be happy with whatever I got as long as I was in it. I'm happy. And I actually ended up getting Witch 2 because we ended up cutting out the third witch. So I was Witch 2 and Banquo. My studies in secondary school really helped me with, understanding what characters I got and what they do and stuff like that. But I obviously wanted to understand further. So once I got my characters, once I got my roles, I went straight into looking in context research and historical research and stuff to just kind of help me and to like look at the characterization of the characters that I got. After we got our roles, we actually got our concept as well. So the concept that we are doing for Macbeth is actually going to be a World War II sort of theme. I really liked this concept when we were like actually presenting them, because we had a lesson where we presented our concepts to the entire group, and this World War II one really stuck out to me. I think the reason why it really stuck out to me was because the chaos of war really aligns with the chaos in the Macbeth story, and it aligns with the chaos inside Macbeth's mind and how the witches are influencing him to do all these things through their prophecies, and how as time goes on he kind of has this like tyrant sort of energy and he like has downfall. In the original Macbeth script there is a war going on. It is a war between Scotland and England, and so the theme of World War II, it just really stuck with the original theme. Like it kind of went hand in hand, so it would make it easier for us to be able to kind of fit it into the original context and make it something that would work, as well as something that would be interesting. Overall, I think the wartime setting and the wartime context, it just really complements like these themes like fate and ambition and power that like run throughout the play, and I think that it's going to be really good when it gets on stage. So after we figured out our context and we have our roles, we actually got our script. So instantly, once I got my script, I went through, highlighted all of my lines, and then we started making changes to the script to fit the concept and the themes that we were going to be throwing in, and just to kind of fit us to our characters. So because I was Banquo, we actually ended up taking out Fleance, which is his son, just to kind of make it, a bit more seamless. There's little characters here and there that for our adaptation, it wouldn't work. So with Christmas approaching and us having a new script, I wanted to really start looking into my lines, and so I went through the entire script, and anything that related to my characters or anything that my characters said that I didn't understand, I went through and started looking at the context of those lines and what they meant, so I understood it. Because Shakespeare is very complicated and half the words aren't even English, and so it's very complicated for me to be able to understand the lines and say the lines and mean the lines if I don't know the words that I'm saying. So during the second week of this Macbeth project, I actually got really sick, so I wasn't in college much, but the time that I spent at home, I spent working on my script. I was going back and forth, trying to understand the lines that I had been given, especially for the witches, because the witches say a lot of very cryptic stuff, and it didn't make a lot of sense to me, so going back and researching the words that I didn't understand and sort of translating the lines from Jacobean Shakespearean English to modern English was really helpful for me to understand what I'm saying. When we came back from Christmas, we started to block scenes. So basically what we did is we went from the start to the end just blocking scenes, and so this week we ended up blocking scenes 1, 2 and 3. So starting with scene 1, I am a witch, and so me and my fellow witch Yaz, we went through and Steve was guiding us, and we kind of just like got rough areas of like, you know, what we wanted to do, where we wanted to stand, and how we wanted to kind of say things. This was just to give us a starting point, so later on we can go back, reblock, and see, you know, what's working and what isn't working. After we did that, I went back to my script and made some changes to fit the changes that we made with blocking. And that pretty much concludes week 1 and week 2 of the Macbeth project. So a target of mine was to go back and look at my characters, just to make sure that I understood like their purpose and, you know, their reasonings for what they do and just their lines in general, because it really helps me to get into that character if I understand them on like a deeper level. One thing that I really want to do to help me with my characterization is to go and find other adaptations of Macbeth and look at how they have done it. Like how Banquo and the witches are characterized in other performances of Macbeth. So in conclusion, the first 2 weeks were extremely busy with, you know, auditions, starting to rehearse, getting our script, getting our characters, and so it was just kind of a lot. So that concludes the first 2 weeks of the Unit 8 Macbeth project.